What's up, what's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we take a look back at the early works of seasoned comedians before they were seasoned with this week's guest, Stephen the Sitcom Ortiz. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, welcome to Done Way Past Funny, where we look at the early works of comedians before they were seasoned. I am your host, G.D. Fenderson, Certified Forensic Humourist at large, but I'm losing weight. I want to welcome my first guest today, comedian and co-host of Coffee with the Dog, Stephen the Sitcom Ortiz. How's it going, Stephen?
Crap. Howdy.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to cut out that first mess up there. I'm so used to doing critical joke theory that I was starting to do the critical joke theory introduction, and I was stuck.
Makes sense. Dude, hey, you're a multi-talented man. You're on all sorts of shows. I don't know how you keep it together. It's got to be the hair.
Who said it was together? All right, so.
Fair enough.
All right, now, first of all, I know who you are. I don't know everything about you, but I know who you are. But for those who are out there who are watching and for the first time or just getting to meet you because they don't watch Coffee with the Dog, what the fuck? What kind of people are you? Don't watch Coffee with the Dog. Okay.
Gross.
All right. So tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. So I've been doing comedy for 7 years. Started in late 2017, early 2018, and been full time now for about a year. So total 7 years. And I've been doing comedy primarily in Fort Wayne, Indiana. But I got my start in South Bend, Indiana. And now I'm kind of everywhere. So I just don't only perform here in Fort Wayne, but, I go all over the country. So I've been as far west as Missouri, going to be as far east as New York come January, and all over the Midwest. So Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Kentucky, you name it, I go.
Now, as far as, okay, because you said Kentucky, Indiana, Michigan, the places that you've gone to so far, are there some subtle regional differences in the comedy and what they find funny? And if so, do you adjust? First of all, do you know in advance that you're going to have to adjust, or do you find out like, oh fuck, this is Kentucky, they don't like incest jokes or something like that? So when do you find that you have to adjust, and when do you adjust?
So I use a fair amount of stereotyping when I travel. I know that sounds horrible, but for example, when I went to Missouri, for example, I went to Kansas City, and I had a little voice in my head saying, "Hey, these are probably going to be some rednecks," and I was really, really right. And so, I kind of adjusted, I kind of made fun of the left a little bit, just kind of made the jokes a little more rednecky, not to the sense that I pander, because again, I'm certain things I'm not going to pander to, but I adjust a little bit, but overall my jokes stay the same. My lineup of jokes stay the same. I've never really run into a situation where I've been completely outside of my element.
Okay, it's funny because you said stereotypes, and this is back when I first started doing comedy, and I can even tell you about the week it was. It was the week of around Valentine's Day, in 2015. Yeah, because I started doing comedy 2014, right? But anyway, around it, so it was around right around the time the main news story was that let me see, Charles Manson has just gotten engaged, and I heard it on the radio, and I was driving in the car I was driving to the car. Yeah, I was driving in the car, dropping my wife off at the airport, and they do this story on the news. And I look at my wife just before I'm dropping her off, and I said, "I've got to write a bit about this. I got to, and I got to get it out there before anybody else does." And so I dropped off my wife, and I start looking for places to do open mics. And I'm at the Tampa airport. I find a place, and it's called, like, I think it's called Cactus Willie's or something like that. I know Willie. I know the name Willie is in it. I don't remember that. Cactus Willie's may be a restaurant, but it was something Willie. And I'm looking at where it is, and I said, "Oh man, this is gonna be fucking rednecks." I know this, and so I'm writing my material, and I'm preparing myself emotionally. Now, I didn't write the material for rednecks. I wrote it the way I was writing it because this is raw. I'm like, this is brand new. I'm working on it right now, like while I'm driving in the
Right.
car. Literally, I'm driving in the car, and I used to have a notepad, and so I used to drive with my left hand and write with my right hand, and just not look at what I'm writing. I'm just looking at the road, and I'm just writing. So, and then I have to like put it all together because there's no lines, it's like all over shit, all over the place. So I get to Willie's, and the place was all white people. There was not, I was the only black person there. Even the kitchen staff was all white. I mean, they even not even Latinos. I mean, white. No Latino in the even. And I'm like, fuck, this is a really white room. And I said, that doesn't. I'm going to do my material anyway. So I go up and I do my material, and I only like I said, I only had the Charles Manson thing. So I had like 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. 5 minutes. So I go up, I do the 5 minutes. The place, they're like, first of all, they were in his stitches. And after I was done my 5 minutes, they said, more, more. I wanted to do like a 15-minute set because I do it like another 5 minutes. I said, do more, do more. And by the time I was done, people from the bar had come in to start watching. I opened up to like, I started with like 7 people in the room. And by the time I was done, it was packed. And I was like,
Oh
holy
man.
fuck. Yeah, that was a good thing. But the thing is, the whole point of the story is that that was the only time that I can think of that I was so prepared for a one type of crowd, and it was totally different. It was like progressive, super progressive crowd. I was totally wrong. So have you been totally wrong about one of your stereotypes?
Um, no, but I did go into one, I guess, with different expectations. Well, I guess I was wrong. Duh. Yeah, I did. So there was a show in Indianapolis, and it was a mixed showcase. So it was music and comedy.
Hmm.
However, the way it played out was it was 8 rap artists and then myself and another white comedian.
Hmm.
Um, so I get there, the other guy shows up, we're kind of chit chatting, and as the place fills up, we are the only white people there. Period.
Uh-huh.
And so we got really lucky because the booker comes up and says, "All right, Chris, you're going first, and then Steve, you're going second." And I was like, "Thank you." And he goes up there and he pandered, man. He pandered really hard and just bombed. It was quiet. He got some booze, and then I had to follow it up. And it was just one of those things where I didn't know what mix of who was gonna be there,
Right.
but when I saw how bad he had bombed and how hard he was pandering to the crowd he had perceived as like gangster rap thug people
Right.
instead of maybe just a bunch of just people hanging out in general. So I kind of went
Right.
up there and just did my normal set, and then just kind of picked on myself, and then I also started hitting on the older black chicks in the front row. And it just worked out really well. And and I got an applause, and then they made a video of the thing afterwards. They edited the other guy out completely. So I was completely wrong. But I managed to play the cards right, and it turned out well. And I got lucky because it could have gone either way because you know I it's not an environment I'm in normally. So
Okay, yeah, two things then, because
Mhm.
and I can say that I say this because I kind of know you, but is this the video where you make the thunder thimble reference and there's a black chick that says, "Oh, honey, I'm sure it's not that bad." Is this that place?
Yeah.
And first of
Yep.
all, am I getting it right? Am I recapping the
Yes,
story
I
right?
believe so. I
And
believe
is that
so.
the
Yep.
place?
Hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So, see, I do pay attention. See,
Aha.
people don't think I pay attention, but I do pay attention. I may not have all the details right,
Well, I
but
figure whatever you miss, the Rev will catch. So
the Rebel Catch. Oh,
the
that's the
Rev.
place. Okay, got it. Yes.
Wow, I'm gonna tell him that you forgot about him. That's
Well,
terrible.
no, that was just a matter of mishearing. I thought you were saying the name of the place, and I thought you said Rebel Catch. And I'm
No,
like,
no, no, no.
I was like,
No, the name of the place. I don't think the name of the name the place itself had a name. But the person who books it, I'm not going to mention his name because he
right.
charges people to perform for him, and I'm not cool for that with that
So he's a
in any
pimp.
way, shape, or form. Basically,
Okay, so he pimps you out, and you give him money. Okay, got you. All right. Now, so then in this now, my understanding is that you really love to perform in black rooms. Now,
I do.
is this the room that started that, or was there a room before
Yes.
that? Okay, because sometimes
It,
you did. Go ahead.
yeah, it was this room that did it because one, it made me more confident as a comedian because one key thing as a comedian is you should be able to perform for as many you want to be able to perform for as many audiences as you can, right? And
Right.
so that means you have to be able to perform for anybody anywhere regardless of the situation. So when I was first offered the gig, I thought of it as, well, this is a challenge. I've never done it before, and it's either going to go really good or really bad, and I was prepared for it to go either way. And like I said, not only did it work out well, it gave me confidence, also lent itself to some more jokes for the future. And then I was able to then take that confidence to other predominantly black rooms and not only be comfortable, but thrive in it, which is really nice.
Okay. Now, one of the things that we did not mention, and we've been talking for a few minutes here, is that your handle, the sitcom, comes about because you had a lucrative career on Fox TV with the sitcom show, right? Is that why they
No,
call you the
no,
sitcom? Oh,
no, because if that was the case, I wouldn't live in Indiana. So,
okay. So I'm sorry. So why the sitcom then? Because maybe I might have that detail wrong then because I thought I knew everything about you. So why the sitcom?
my back was broken at birth, or at least that is the predominantly accepted story that of what happened. Um, so
Now,
because of
I
that,
mean, I'm just so when you were being born, was it they were pulling you out and the doctors like maybe it stretched your neck or something, or did your mother like clamp her legs down at the last minute, going like, "No, no, I don't want to have this kid." And so what happened?
well,
No, I'm kidding. No.
I refuse to think of my mother's gorilla grip. So we're gonna go with that. No, so the story that I was told and the story that's been told to me by the doctors was that I was breached at birth. So they decided to do a C-section, and I was wedged up in her rib cage. So they had to pull me out legs first, and then with the twisting and pulling, snapped my spine, and then didn't discover it till I was a year old. So it had already basically remended and then covered itself in scar tissue. So by the time I was one, there was no leg movement or anything. I couldn't sit up, so they did a bunch of, imaging, found the damage, took the scar tissue off, and then that started the 3 years of or 2 years of surgeries, of living in the hospital and learning to eventually use my legs a little bit, enough to where I was able to walk on crutches for a long time. But that kind of started fading around the time I started doing comedy, actually. So,
Now,
but then the name sitcom, however, comes from the fact that when I started doing stand up, um, of course, we are fans of low hanging fruit. and folks at the clubs would be like, huh, you don't do stand up, you do sit down comedy. And
Yeah.
it just got to the point where it never made me mad, never nothing like that. It just became annoying. It just became to the point where I'm just tired of hearing it. So I kind of got in front of it. So I started signing up for the mic as the sitcom. Um,
Okay.
and it just kind of at first it was just a joke, and then it kind of stuck, and then it kind of turned into a thing where I don't remember who had told me. I think it was my buddy Sky Luke was like, that kind of works as a stage name and it's funny. And so I kind of just no pun intended rolled with it. And
The-
here we are.
Now, the first time I worked with a comedian in a wheelchair, um, yeah, yeah, I think it was the first. Yeah, it was the first time. He had a show that he used to do on public access television, I think. And it was a comedy thing. And the thing is, it was no live audience. You did your show, and then they would add laughter later.
Oh, ew.
Yeah, and
Okay.
but that's not what I was told when I signed up for it. That's not the
Mhm.
way it was. Thing as a matter of fact, when I got there, there was like 50 chairs, for like 50 people to sit there, which is like they were expecting an audience. And the guy goes, "You don't mind performing without an audience, right?" And I don't know if they just didn't tell people not to show,
Oh,
because it's not like I was supposed to be the draw. It's a show, a TV show. They were supposed to have a television audience. So I don't know why there wasn't an audience, but the chairs were there, and they had a two camera setup. And I said, no, no problem. I said, it's just like when I practice at home. When I practice to my cameras. When I used to practice, I used to set up two cameras, and I used to practice talking to the cameras, moving back and forth. And then I'd watch the video to see how I did. And I also
right.
practice talking to the imaginary audience in the middle of the cameras, just so I can get used to get certain mannerisms down by rote. Because I didn't want to be up there thinking about what I do with my hands, what I do with the mic, what I do with this. I practice all that
Right.
way in advance. So but the guy was in a wheelchair, and I was making the sitcom jokes to him, and not him not doing stand up, and he was laughing his ass off like no one had ever said anything to him like that. And it turns out they hadn't, because they were afraid to like address the elephant in the room,
Mm.
so they would never mention the fact that he was in a wheelchair. And I would say things
Yeah.
like, yeah, and I was like, when I first I said, do you need help getting that? Because he was trying to get something. It was like, I'm sorry, you know look, I have two working legs, and sometimes I need help getting shit. So I'm not being demeaning. It's like shit. Sometimes we need help. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether you're able-bodied or not. Some fucking times you need help, and sometimes you're too proud to even ask for help, and you know you need help.
Hmm.
So. But it turns out they were just skirting around it. And they did not want to. Nobody addressed the fact that he was in a wheelchair. So did you get that? Well, obviously they didn't, because they were teasing you. So again, the way and
So the joke started once I kind of I always kind of make it a point to address the elephant in the room, kind of right off the bat. One, it makes it really easy. So a lot of people tell you it's hard to go on stage because it's hard to break the ice. So
right.
I use my situation to break the ice because one, you're told growing up, don't stare at them. It's rude, right? So one, now everybody has an
I
excuse to
was told.
stare.
I wasn't told that. I was told don't point. I wasn't told not to
Oh, fair
stare.
enough, fair enough.
I was told don't
Um,
point and don't laugh. But stare, sure, go like what the fuck, but don't go what the fuck.
but
Don't point.
exactly, right, right. So, but so generally when as soon as I go up there, I don't have to worry about getting everyone's attention because everyone immediately is going like, "Whoa, hold on a second, what?" So, and then I address the elephant in the room, and it makes for an easy joke. It's an easy laugh. It's a quick laugh, but it kind of sets the momentum because I can break the ice right away and get them going. Whether it's I know you guys came for stand up, my bad, or
Yeah.
just however you want to, people ask why I'm in the wheelchair. It's for the parking. You want to see my
Right.
spot? I'll ask a lady in the front row, and she'll be like, no, and I'll be like, you sure? It's close, like it's
That's
stupid low hanging fruit, but it breaks that ice so quick and easy. And so if anything, I kind of think of it as like a cheat code. I mean, it can I can go anywhere regardless of the setting, and I can get the room as long as I can make sure everyone knows that I'm about to do something stupid.
It's also kind of like your personal host, in the sense that, like, 'cause the job of the host is to warm the audience up before the actual comedy starts, and you have a set material that you can do. But and if I'm wrong, if I'm speaking out of turn, just say so, and I'll delete the fact that you corrected me. But if I'm if I'm wrong, no, if I'm wrong, it's like, so you have your material. Let's say and this is just your host, your opener. Like, okay, I'm in a wheelchair. This is the icebreaker, and then you can actually go on with the other material that's not the same old claptrap.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, basically, so while my material while the wheelchair kind of plays a theme throughout my material, it's more of how the wheelchair made that experience that would normally be mundane or kind of what everybody goes through and makes it different and unique, right? So,
Right.
like, for example, when I talk about like my dating life and my marriage and things like that, um, it's not just, oh man, I was in a wheelchair, so it all sucked, but it's like we've like a lot of us have had a divorce, or a lot of us have maybe had a spouse who was abusive or whatever, and so yeah, that sucks. But now here's why this layer makes it so bad that it's funny. So while yes, the wheelchair plays a theme, it's not a barrage of pity me, poor me, feel bad for me. It's like, holy shit, this is funny. This happened because of the wheelchair. We should all laugh at this, because if not, I'm gonna Kurt Cobain myself at some point about it. So, it's just, but it's just one of those things. I like to. There's a fine line, because you can easily just go up there and just make everyone really uncomfortable talking about your situation.
Right.
It's very easy to do. It's no different than if you're a giant fat guy, or if you're a frumpy dyke up there with a 11-year-old boy haircut and whatever else, right? Like, you can go up there and make everyone really uncomfortable, or you can use self-deprecation in a way that's funny, right? So
Right.
it's a fine line, and I like to think I've figured it out somewhat, because here we are. So
And so, how is life after the sitcom that you lost? I'm just teasing. No, no, I'm just teasing. Now, we're gonna watch the first half of your clip. Would you mind setting it up for the people? Do you remember what you said? What we got? It's
Oh boy. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. So if I remember correctly, this was my very first set at the old Drop Comedy Club in South Bend, Indiana, which was located snugly 200 yards from the St. Joseph County Jail.
okay.
Beautiful spot, beautiful room. But yeah, this was, I believe, my very first set, September 11th, 2018. I think,
Cool.
yeah, 2018.
Jim, roll the tape.
I'd be asking, took this guy a really long time to get up there. What's up with that? Well, I was born this way, right? So back off. But it's not the fat, it's the crippled, but you gotta take your pick. Either way, getting through the crowd sucks, right? So 2019 is not my year. 2019, it sucked. Alright, so going through a divorce. It's fantastic, right? Sounds like it would suck. It wasn't bad until the wife tried taking the crutches. She said she wanted me to crawl back to her. It almost worked. So that's always a plus, right? Oh yeah. I also found out why my friends kept inviting me to amusement parks. That's always cool. The lines suck. And so they'd invite me, get me drunk, take me to the front of the line, and then get on the ride and leave me behind. Well, I was going to try to get on one of these rides. It was a Superman ride at Six Flags. You get to hang there, Looks really fun, right? Until you realize your legs are going to be dangling there. Start looking like Pinocchio hanging from a ceiling fan. Not a good idea. Then I started thinking about it. I was like, this might be fun. Until I realized I might catch an assault charge, because everyone's going to look like they spent the night with Chris Brown afterwards. It's awful. It's really bad. I also got kicked out of the Boys and Girls Club. That wasn't fun. They said, you can't mentor these kids and really do anything for them if you don't stand for anything.
That disqualifies me all the way around.
Oof.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I
Good
do
times.
know from later clips is that part of your story evolved because I think there you said your ex-wife, tried to get your crutches in a divorce, and now you've updated it to say the wheelchair. She tried to
Yes,
get you.
and that's due because I don't use the crutches anymore. I can't use the crutches anymore. So, obviously 99.9% of audiences don't know the backstory that I was on crutches. So mostly
Right.
mostly just due for, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like a
Well,
Hollywood thing. It's like, yeah, it
yeah.
actually is a. It's a Hollywood thing. Like you're not going to really, you didn't really think that I was, or not that I was, but they some things are compression. So because if you do the crutches, then you have to explain about the crutches, and in Hollywood they'll just say fuck it. He never had crutches. He was born in a
Yeah.
wheelchair.
Continuity.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Continuity. That's it. Now, and I think I know the answer to this. I'm right now as this question formulates in my head. I think I know the answer to this, but um, since most of the time you spend your time most times, yeah, because you're not in a wheelchair like all the time. Sometimes you're on a couch or a chair or something else. But when you're transporting yourself in the wheelchair, your hands are on the wheels. What is the worst thing that you've ever rolled through that you got on your hands?
Oh man. I mean, the list, honestly, it's kind of a list thing, I mean, like dog shit's always gross. Like that's always not fun. I've rolled through people shit in bathrooms, public bathrooms. That's even
Hmm.
worse. Um, I would say, yeah, that's probably the worst. Was going into a bathroom at a Notre Dame football game and rolling into the bathroom and somebody decided to take just a creamy wet shit on the floor and I rolled into the handicap stall and it just right into it. Yeah.
Now I'm wondering if I was thinking that you're the first person interviewed in a wheelchair, but you may not be because the answer I was expecting was that I thought you told me this story about the time you came home, you had to go through the garage and it was somebody's suicide and you actually went through their blood and piss and stuff.
Oh no, you're right. But that wasn't my house. That was a friend's house.
Oh, but that was you who told me that story.
That was me. Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's a really traumatic experience. I try not to think about it a whole
Oh,
lot.
no wonder. Thank God. Because I said, wait a minute, how many
Yeah.
people have, how many, damn, okay.
No, you're
So
right.
that,
You're right. No, it was my buddy's uncle who who had taken his life. Yeah.
okay. But
Yeah.
that wasn't
Yeah.
the yuckiest stuff that you rolled through. That was,
Well,
I guess.
no, that was bad for a whole nother reason. Because while it was gross to have it on my wheels, and it, because you gotta remember, I don't put my hands on the rubber part of my wheels; they go
Right,
on
that's it. You
the
have a
rails.
round, right,
Yeah,
rails on a, yeah, got
yeah.
you.
So, but that was bad for the reason I blocked that out for most of the time is the smell. Um, what we saw, a lot of it that's nightmare inducing for the most part. Like the fact
Okay.
that it was on my wheels was like the last thing I was worried about. It was,
Okay.
like my friend's uncle was dead and we got to see that live in person, front row seats, but yeah, that is a thing that happened. And that's pretty rough, man. That's gross. Yeah.
Now, in the set here, you said that was the first time. First of all, how long did you work on the set itself? And how did you prepare to go up on the stage? And what made you decide to go up on stage?
So
Now I'm using the word stage in the figurative sense because sometimes you don't make it on the stage because of the handicap,
right.
the wheelchair
Well,
accessibility.
at the time I had the crutches, so I that one time I was actually up on the stage. But what made me do it was I've been a fan of comedy forever. Um, I had terrible stage fright all the way up until I was 14 or 15 years old. So I loved comedy since I was 8, 9 years old. First thing I ever heard was George Carlin. My dad had the vinyl record with the I think it was like the 10 Dirty Words.
7.
Sevens, that's right. Seven Dirty Words. And that was the first album I heard.
I can't remember all the words.
I can't remember them all off the top of my head either, but it was the first thing I ever heard. It was because my dad had left it on the stereo on the record player, and I remember coming home and turning it on, and it was just playing, and I was like, oh my god, what are these words? And it just opened up a whole world. And then not long after that, one of his newer / older stand-up specials came on, and I was like, I bet I could do that. But the stage fright meant it never was thought of as a possibility of something I would ever do. So never thought about it really until I was an adult. And then after 4 or 5 years of people telling me, you should try stand-up, you're so funny, you should try stand-up. And you hear that a million times from a million people. And for the most part, most of them aren't funny. So I thought, well, no. The divorce happened. Broke up. My ex-wife moved out. I was single. I had a little new bout of confidence. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go try it. And I tried it this time. And even though looking back on it, it's horrible, but I got laughs throughout most of it, and I fell in love with it because I was like, oh my god, I can make a room full of people laugh. And that's the bug that bit me. And yeah.
Hi, I'm GD Fenderson, Certified Forensic Humourist and host of Done Way Past Funny. You've just watched part 1 of our interview with the comedian and co-host of Coffee with the Dog, Stephen the Sitcom Ortiz. Please join us as we continue our interview with comedian Stephen the Sitcom Ortiz. And when you do, bring a friend.